This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
We're back. Now Duane and Ethan Lane talk about their hopes that the new administration changes some of the current regulations imposed on producers over the past 8 years.
Duane Toews joining you once again with AGam in Kansas, and a chance to catch up with Ethan Lane with NCBA, and particularly working within the Public Lands Council. Ethan, we think about the current environment out there when it comes to regulations and just trying to get the job done as farmers and ranchers across the country. There's a whole lot on our plate, but it looks like maybe we have a potential chance to change some of those things to make the working environment a little more appeasable.
I think that's right. In this new administration coming in and the 115th Congress getting started with their work, I think opportunity is the word I'm hearing more than anything. We do have a lot of opportunities. We have a lot of work to do right up front to repeal a lot of the regulatory overreach we've seen in the last 8 years, whether it's through abuse of the Endangered Species Act or further west. We've had a lot of issues with the Antiquities Act and designations of large multi-million acre landscapes. We continue to see planning regulations that really infringe on producers' ability to put the kind of conservation on the ground that we know we're able to. So we have a lot of things on our list to address in the short term to get some of those regulations rolled back so that we can focus on some long-term priorities as far as offensive reform of some issues that we know need attention.
You reference the fact of some of that overreach of waters of the U.S., land takings, and an inability almost to work with BLM on grazing contracts. It's been a tough environment the last 8 years.
It really has been, and I've been saying this the last few weeks, actually, because we have noticed a change in agency communication with us already. I think they've had really poor political leadership, particularly at BLM. And I think there are some staff people that have been chafing under that for the last few years that are really excited to be able to kind of turn a page and re-engage with an industry that in the past we've had a good relationship with. There was a time when BLM employees were mostly from ranching families, and they understood what those challenges were in rural communities. And we've kind of gotten away from that. We're hopeful that in this new administration, we've got a chance to sort of start fresh and get through some of these issues that really don't need to be problems.
Closer to home, we don't have a lot of BLM ground, obviously, in the Central Plains, but the Lesser Prairie Chicken and the Endangered Species Act has been a bit of a burr under the saddle pad.
Well, the Lesser Prairie Chicken is one of those species that sort of is indicative of exactly what's wrong with the Endangered Species Act. We have an unprecedented amount of conservation, voluntary conservation, that was put forward before this bird was listed a couple years ago. So much so that after the Fish and Wildlife Service ignored that conservation and listed the bird anyway, the court immediately overturned it because they recognized that the work that farmers and ranchers had put on the ground, along with oil and gas companies, wind energy producers, and others, was having the desired effect. We're seeing a rebound in the species. The Fish and Wildlife Service immediately reinitiating a status review and prioritizing that over other species that need the attention speaks volumes about what's wrong with that process. It shows you how much fear they have of litigation from radical environmental groups, and it shows you the kind of bad pattern they've fallen into. So when we talk about reform, this is sort of a playbook for exactly what we're talking about.
Big picture as we move forward, Ethan, things maybe that we can be proactive in dealing with on behalf of farmers and ranchers.
Well, back to ESA, that's definitely one of the top line issues. National Environmental Policy Act reform is another one we're going to be paying close attention to. A lot of people have been following the Standing Rock issue up in North Dakota. It's not really an issue that impacts ranchers except for the protests that have resulted in a lot of damage to resources and families that are innocent that are just in the area. But at its core, that comes back to a NEPA issue. And that speaks volumes about the government's lack of regard for that process when it suits them and their desire to adhere to it when, they kind of waffle back and forth and use it when they need to. And we need to get to a place where they're using it appropriately when they feel that an environmental review is necessary, but not overusing it. We're west of the 100th meridian in the western states. We're at a point now where you can't swing a gate open without doing a NEPA process that costs $2 million and takes a year and a half. And that's just unacceptable. We need to get back to a place where we're using that responsibly, and the rest of the time we're trusting ranchers to do what they need to do best.
Our thanks to Ethan Lane with NCBA joining us with an update on the activities within the Public Lands Council at NCBA and looking out for the best interests of farmers and ranchers across the U.S. Jamie, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Duane. Come back after the break for the business model used by one Iowa cattle breeder.
Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego is driven by the spirit of American ingenuity. Come in for a new Chevrolet car, truck, or SUV. If we don't have exactly what you want, we'll find it for you. And we also have a great selection of used cars. We make sure you have an easy, fun, and transparent sales experience that saves you time and money. But if you want high-pressure salesmen and hours spent in the finance office, you'll just have to go elsewhere. Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're making car buying great again.